The observation deck of the stellar horizon hummed with the quiet efficiency of a ship in deep space. Marcus Chen sat cross-legged on his bunk, wrapped in his thermal blanket, reviewing the day's geological surveys of Dracon Prime. The ice planet below glowed blue and white through the viewport, beautiful and unforgiving. He'd been the only human on this xenological expedition for 3 months now. The Draconi, massive reptilian beings with scales that shimmered like molten gold, had hired him specifically for his expertise in extreme climate survival. They were a proud species, ancient and powerful, but they'd never quite understood why humans thrived in conditions that would kill most sentient races. A soft scratching sound broke his concentration. Marcus looked up from his datapad. The sound came again. Tiny claws on metal decking. He set the pad aside and listened. There it was, a faint chittering, like distressed birds. The door to his quarters was sealed, but there was a maintenance vent near the floor. As Marcus watched, 3 small shapes squeezed through the grating. Dragon babies. They couldn't have been more than a week old, each no larger than a house cat, with scales that hadn't yet hardened into the armor their parents wore. They were a pale, translucent gold, and they were shivering. "Oh no," Marcus whispered. The hatchlings stumbled toward him on unsteady legs, their membrane wings dragging behind them. They chirped desperately, their inner eyelids flickering. One collapsed halfway across the room. Marcus didn't hesitate. He threw off his blanket and scooped up the fallen hatchling. Its body was cold, far too cold. Dragon babies needed heat during their first weeks of life, a fact every Draconi knew. These 3 shouldn't have been anywhere near the human quarters, which were kept at what the Draconi considered Arctic temperatures. The other 2 hatchlings reached Marcus's bunk and tried to climb up, their tiny claws finding no purchase on the smooth surface. He gathered them quickly, cradling all 3 against his chest. They were barely breathing, their small hearts fluttering like trapped moths. "Computer, increase temperature to maximum," Marcus commanded. "Unable to comply," the ship's AI responded. "Doing so would compromise life support systems for primary crew members." Of course, the Draconi needed their sections cooler than what would save these babies. Marcus looked down at the 3 tiny lives in his arms. They'd come to him for a reason. Somehow, through instinct or desperation, they'd found the warmest place on the ship. Him. Marcus sat back on his bunk and pulled his thermal blanket around himself and the hatchlings. Human body temperature, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. It might not be enough, but it was all he had. He tucked the babies against his bare chest, under his shirt, and wrapped the blanket around them all. Almost immediately they stopped shivering. Their tiny bodies pressed against his skin, and soft purring sounds emerged from their throats. "That's it," Marcus murmured. "I've got you." His comm unit chimed urgently. Commander Zaxith's face appeared on the screen, her golden scales gleaming with distress. "Human Marcus, have you seen—" She stopped, her vertical pupils widening as she took in the scene. "You found them." "They found me," Marcus said gently, adjusting the blanket. "They're hypothermic. How did they get loose?" Zaxith's head lowered in shame. "A containment failure in the hatchery. The environmental controls malfunctioned. We've been searching for an hour. In these temperatures, they should be—" "They're going to be fine," Marcus interrupted. He could feel their hearts strengthening, their breathing deepening. "But I need to keep them warm for a while. I will come immediately to retrieve—" "No." Marcus's voice was firm but kind. "Commander, with respect, the hatchery isn't secure, and these little ones just survived a journey through freezing corridors. Moving them again could shock their systems. Let me keep them here tonight. I'll monitor them." Zaxith was silent for a long moment. Marcus could see the conflict in her alien features. Humans were strange to the Draconi, fragile creatures who nonetheless survived in environments that killed hardier species. They were weak, yet strong, soft, yet resilient. A paradox. "You would do this?" Zaxith asked finally. "Guard our young through the night cycle?" Marcus looked down at the three tiny dragons nestled against him. One had wrapped its tail around his thumb. Another was making small, contented sounds in its sleep. The third looked up at him with eyes like liquid amber, already growing brighter with warmth and life. "Yeah," Marcus said, smiling. "I would." The truth was, he'd been lonely out here among the stars. The Draconi were professional and respectful, but distant. These little ones, though, they'd trusted him with their lives. They'd sought him out in their moment of need. "Then I entrust them to you, Marcus Chen," Zaxith said formally. "You honor our species." After she disconnected, Marcus dimmed the lights and settled back against his pillow. The hatchlings adjusted themselves, curling into the warm spaces between his arms and chest. He could feel their tiny heartbeats syncing with his own steady rhythm. Outside, the stars wheeled by in their eternal dance. Dracon Prime rotated slowly below, a world of ice and stone that would one day be home to these three small lives. But tonight, they were safe in the warmth of human kindness. Marcus began to hum softly, an old lullaby his grandmother had sung to him. The dragon babies stirred, their wings fluttering contentedly. One yawned, showing tiny crystalline teeth, then burrowed deeper into the blanket. This was why humans explored the stars, Marcus thought. Not for glory or conquest, but for moments like these. For the chance to reach across the vast darkness and offer warmth to those who needed it, for the privilege of protecting the vulnerable, no matter how alien they might be. As sleep claimed him, Marcus smiled. Tomorrow there would be diplomatic complications and medical examinations. Zaxith would probably insist on recording this for the xenological archives. The other Draconi would want to understand how human biology could sustain their young. But tonight, there were just 3 dragon babies and 1 human, wrapped together in a blanket, sharing warmth across the infinite cold of space. And that was enough.